Hey guys, welcome back. I am recording lecture 3 for Spanish 2, week 2 for episodio 8. I'm going to skip over the objectives, but we're basically going to talk a lot about question formation and vocabulary for frequency and places in the city to where you talk or do these activities. Okay, so here's just some basic things. Sentence in Spanish is oración. Sentences is oraciones. Question is pregunta. Questions is preguntas. In English and Spanish, we have two types of questions. We have closed questions, which are answered with yes or no. So examples are, do you like ice cream? Can you help me? So we usually say yes or no to answer these questions. Whereas open questions, we use WH words or question words such as where, what, when, how. And whenever we ask questions with these words, we usually want to find out more information. And I have a typo here. Okay, so here's some important Spanish questions, question vocabulary. ¿Dónde means where. ¿A dónde means to where. ¿Cuántas veces means how many times. And this is something we can combine with how many times a week, how many times a month. Then we have con qué frecuencia, which means how often. And then we can ask people, how often do you go to the gym? Con qué frecuencia vas al gimnasio? And then cuándo, which is when. So all of these are good vocabulary words that we will be using when we ask open questions, which are like WH questions. Okay, so this is just a quick ladder to kind of show you how similar questions are to sentences. So if you can write a subject, verb, sentence in Spanish, you can definitely write questions and open questions. So here I have the English and the Spanish, right? I read the news every day. Yo leo las noticias todos los días. Okay, so do you read the news every day? Notice that the do you read kind of gets replaced by lees. And lees is basically the verb leer, which means to read, in conjugated to form. So this do you read kind of gets replaced by the verb lees. And then we have the rest. So, lees las noticias todos los días. And then for the open question, we have the WH question vocabulary for the open question. How often, right? Con qué frecuencia. And then we just kind of do the do you read, lees, and then the rest. So in this case, you just want to know how often you read the news. ¿Con qué frecuencia lees las noticias? And I don't say every day because I'm not assuming that I know. Okay, so here are some quick tips about asking and writing do you questions. Okay, so in English we use do, which is a helping verb in the present tense. Spanish, we don't need that verb, so we just conjugate as I have been teaching you. In English, you must always mention who is doing the action. So who is the subject? If you don't, whatever you're saying is not going to make sense, and people will ask you who is doing the action. In Spanish, because as we have learned before, our subject is matching the verb conjugation, we don't really need to say who or what is doing the action when we are conjugating our verb correctly. So here is an example. Do you live with your family? Do you live? So in Spanish, we don't need the do, right? And in Spanish, you live, we conjugated tú vives. And in Spanish, we don't really need to add the to, but usually you shouldn't. All Spanish speakers really wouldn't, because again, the verb signals who is doing the action or who I'm asking the question to. So here it goes. ¿Vives con tu familia? So you can see here that the tú is the vives, is the conjugated form, right? So vives, do you live with your family? ¿Vives con tu familia? Okay. So notice that when you start asking closed questions like do you questions, you always start with the conjugated verb in Spanish. Go ahead and write the following questions in Spanish. Question number 1, ask your teacher if she lives in Chicago and use the formal usted. And question number 2, ask all of your classmates if they live near Kendall. So you can use the you all. So you can pause the video and then we'll check the answers. Okay, so I'm assuming you use the usted vive, ustedes viven, and you probably had to look up some words on word reference. I'm going to go ahead and just double check the answers with you. Okay, so if you ask your teacher if she lives in Chicago, you would talk to her formally. You can ask, vive en Chicago? Or maybe you asked informally, and that's okay too. ¿Vives en Chicago? So just the most important thing here is that you have your verb in the correct conjugation. Okay, so now did you ask your classmates if they live near Kendall? You use ustedes, you all. So your answer or your question should be, ¿viven cerca de Kendall? Or cerca de Kendall College, near Kendall College. Okay. You can definitely look at page 177 and you can continue practicing do you questions. Notice that all of the verbs here are conjugated to he or she or él, ella, or usted forms. So if you are going to ask a question, you would have to change it to tú form. So that'll give you some practice conjugating the verbs and kind of like definitely learning the tú conjugation. And also, go ahead and practice writing how you would answer these questions. So if somebody came up to you and asked you how often you eat pizza, you should be able to say, almost never, always, every day, and so on. Because again, this might be some type of conversation you might have or something along the lines. Okay, so now we're moving on to open questions, the extra step. So English uses question words to ask open questions like who, what, when, where, how, and why. Spanish also uses these words. And here are just some examples. How often? So we would have, if you can form a closed question like a do you, do they, does she question, you can definitely just simply add the WH question or word phrases for open questions at the beginning of that question. So if I wanted to ask someone, how often do you eat pizza? I would start with ¿con qué frecuencia? That's the phrase. And then comes pizza, right? Do you eat? Comes pizza. Okay, how many times a week do they eat in a restaurant? So again, we have that phrase, ¿cuántas veces a la semana do they eat? Comen, so we conjugated comer, the verb to eat, in they form. Ellos comen en un restaurante. Okay. So here are some other important irregular verbs that help discuss location. Both of these verbs are irregular and they kind of follow the pattern, but not always, especially with the yo form. So estar, we're going to use this the verb estar means to be, and it's more like a physical, like being, like a place. So you will use it for that. And then ir, in this case, we're going to use it for go to a place. Okay? So, yo estoy, tú estás, usted, él, ella está, nosotros, nosotras estamos, ustedes, ellos están. And we would use this kind of formula to say where you are at the moment. So, for For example, estar en, and then you tell me the place. So think about how you would translate saying, I am in Indiana, or the students are in the classroom. So remember, estar is the verb be, and the verb be is I am, you are, they are, and so on. And we also have the verb ir, which in this case will mean to go to a place. And yo voy, tú vas, usted, él, ella va, nosotros, nosotras vamos, ustedes, ellos van. And you might have heard that I don't say the V like Victor. I say the V like baby, because in Spanish, one of the things is that Spanish speakers always make the baby B sound for both B's. V's. Okay, so ir a, to go to, you can go ahead and translate. I go to the park on the weekends, and we go, sorry, not got, we go to the nightclub on the weekends. So pause the video, go ahead and translate this, and then let's check our answers. Okay, so let's go ahead and check our answers, and just to make sure that you're using the conjugations correctly, and then just see for the, extra vocabulary that you might have had to find out. Okay, so if I want to say I am in Indiana, yo estoy en Indiana. The students are in the classroom. Los estudiantes están, ellos, en el salón. Salón is classroom. Okay, and for go to, we have I go to the park on the weekends. Yo voy al parque en los fines de semana. And then we have we go to the nightclub on Saturdays. Nosotros vamos a la discoteca los sábados. So you can go and take a look at page 178 and 179 for vocabulary and extra practice. Okay, and again, going back a little bit to the open questions, now we have where, donde. Where are you on Mondays at 7 a.m.? Donde, and then we have the verb be, estar. So where, donde are you? Estás. ¿Dónde estás los lunes a las 7 de la mañana? So now you can also tell me your location during the days of the week or at certain times of the day. Okay. We also have the verb tener, which is another irregular verb, which means to have. And here is the conjugation of the verb tener. So, yo tengo, tú tienes, usted, él, ella tiene, nosotros, nosotras tenemos, ustedes, ellos tienen. And we use this verb, tener que, to have to express like something we have to do. And when we use this phrase, tener o tengo que, we use an infinitive verb and then the extra information. So, tengo que, I have to do. Hacer is not conjugated, it's an infinitive. Hacer mi tarea. Tengo que hacer mi tarea. Tiene que ir a la escuela. She has to go to school, or he has to go to school. Or in the question form, ¿a dónde vas cuando tienes que estudiar? And similarly, tener ganas de, these three words are always together. This means to feel like doing something or desire to do something. Tengo ganas de, so tener will be conjugated. I feel like, and then we use the infinitive, okay? And the second verb is not conjugated, and then the extra information. So if I say, tengo ganas de comer pizza, I feel like eating pizza. Ella no tiene ganas de hablar con nadie. She does not feel like speaking to anyone. ¿A dónde vas cuando tienes ganas de beber algo? So, tienes should be here, but the question is, where do you go when you feel like drinking something? You can look at page 180 and 181 for more practice. Okay, here's the assignment. Complete all the activities and the pages through the lecture and complete page 200, letter ñ. Do your best, and I will post the answers at the end of the week. Thank you for watching.